Hi, friends.
Hi, friends.
We're back. It's episode 124 of the Brunch and Judge.
Yay.
I got nothing. But the next one is 125, and that's exciting.
It is.
I don't know what it means. Something is 125.
It is.
Whatever. Anyway, we are your hosts. I'm April.
And I'm Claire.
And this week we are talking Badass LGBTQ plus, and there's some, I never know.
QIA plus.
QIA plus. Like everyone who feels like they want to be part of that, you're included.
Yes.
Badass LGBTQIA plus yada yada people.
Yes. Did Ellen give us that one? Who gave us that?
It was Ellen.
Yay.
Yay, Ellen. So this week, Claire goes first.
I do.
Claire, what badass LGBTQ yada yada person have you brought to us this week?
I'm talking about Freddie Mercury.
Shock. Surprise!
Just shut up.
Oh my god. You chose Freddie Mercury? I had no idea you even liked him. Huh.
Stop it. Oh, it was like the second it landed on it. I was like, I don't even need to do the Google. I know who I'm doing. Don't even have to Google anybody. I know who I'm picking. Mm-hmm. April was like, she texted me. She's like, so who are you doing? And I was like, Freddie Mercury probably. And she goes, I figured you might go that route.
Had, like,
I'm
a
like,
sense of feeling.
Don't act like you know me.
No, I don't.
You've known me for my entire life.
No, not at all.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah. My sources are Wikipedia, Biography, FreddieMercury.com, and bi.org. So, BI.
Oh, I was gonna be like, wait, what?
BI. Like bi.
I thought you were saying like BUY. I'm like, wait, what?
No,
what?
BI. Like
bi.org. Got it.
Like
bisexual.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anyway, Freddie Mercury's real name is Farrokh Bulsara.
Wait, what? It's what?
It's Farrokh. Farrokh.
I love that.
Bulsara.
I mean, that's hard, but the first name is awesome.
Yeah. He was born September 5th, which is also my oldest niece's birthday. So I'm like, Ava, you share a birthday with one of the greatest people of all time. In 1946. He is from Zanzibar, Tanzania.
Huh.
Did you know that?
I don't know that I knew that was a real place.
It is.
Like, when I have heard Zanzibar, I've always just assumed it was made up. And I don't know why.
No, it is not made up.
I know why I think that. It's because...
is it because of Babar?
No. It's because... this is me not naming names. It's because the kitchen bar area of Bill and Debbie's house, no last names, they refer to as the Zanzibar. Like, if you happen to go to their house, they're like, welcome to the Zanzibar. And like, in my mind, I thought that was just like a made up,
like a fun thing that they okay. Gotcha. I see.
That's why I was like, because the joke, again, I know no one cares. I'm telling you anyway. I'm sorry. Because the joke is, Craig and the bar and the kitchen bar in their house, they'll be like, yeah, theirs is the Zanzibar, ours is the Rebar. And I'm like, oh god.
Oh my god. Jeez Louise. Craig is like the worst. The dad joke. He's like the daddest of the dad jokes.
He is the daddest of the dad jokes. That is 100% correct.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
did not know. Things I learned today. Zanzibar is real. Got it.
Yes. Zanzibar is in Tanzania.
Which feels like the right place it should be.
Yes. His parents are Bomi and Jur Bulsara, and they are Parsi Indian, which means they came from Persia and fled from Persia to Tanzania. They followed, see if I can say this right, the Zoroastrian religion.
Yes, that is right.
Yes, and it followed the teaching of Zarathustra, which is like one of my favorite like musical pieces. The spake Zarathustra, which everybody knows is like the 2001 Space Odyssey theme. You know, it's bum, bum, bum.
Also a book by Nietzsche, but that's okay.
But anyway, everybody, you hear that, everybody's like, it's like one of my little favorite musical things.
Fun.
Anyway, yeah. But anyway, they came from Persia. His dad, Bomi, worked for the British government in the High Court because Zanzibar was a protectorate of the British government. And yeah,
protectorate.
So because yes, and so the family was fairly well off. And he had a sister named Kashmira who was born in 1952. So he had a younger sister. They sent Freddie to St. Peter's boarding school when he was 8. And that was in Bombay, India, which is now known as Mumbai. Yes.
This is fun. I'm like, wait, I know these answers. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Now she's like, wait, I don't know.
I was like, I know all these things so far. Okay.
And so when he went to boarding school, that was when he began to call himself Freddie. I'm sure it was just because it was easier to say. And that's where he began studying piano. And he began, his grandparents were there. Some aunts were there. And so that's where he began studying music. And eventually he formed and joined a band when he was 12 years old called the Hectics. And they said, some members there were talking about how he just had this really uncanny ability to hear something on the radio and then he just hop on the piano and play it.
That's amazing. I want that.
He was just one of those people. Yeah. So after he completed his schooling at the boarding school, he returned to Zanzibar with his family in 1963. And 1963 was the same year that Britain kind of returned government back over to Zanzibar and Tanzania.
It's like, I know we took you over and we've been ruling you. We're going to give you back now. Oh, here you go.
And so they were, you know, and it was mostly like Arab run after that. But the very next year, in 1964, began the Zanzibar Revolution, where the mostly Black African population overthrew the Sultan of Zanzibar and his Arab government. And apparently there was a big massacre. I mean, it was messy. And so during that revolution, the Balsaras fled Zanzibar and they came to England. So Freddie was like 17 when they came. So he spent most of his life in Tanzania and India, his childhood up until that point. And then when he was 17, then they came to England and they settled in Middlesex, England. And Freddie started studying graphic design at Ealing College of Art. And he joined a band called Wreckage. And he was working as a baggage handler at Heathrow Airport. And while he's trying to make it on the music scene, the band Wreckage failed. And then he joined another band called Sour Milk Sea. But that one eventually broke up too. Just like some of these names. I'm just
I love it.
I know. So 1970, Freddie met and teamed up with Brian May and Roger Taylor. And Brian May plays guitar. Roger Taylor plays drums. They had a band called Smile. And by 1971, they had a guy named John Deacon who joined as the bassist. And Freddie decided to choose a new name for the band and called him Queen. And band members had a little pushback. Some of the management had pushback because of how the name sounded, had a little bit of connotation, negative connotation to it. But Freddie said, it's a quote, he said, "It's very regal, obviously, and it sounds splendid. It's a strong name, very universal and immediate. I was certainly aware of the gay connotations, but that was just one facet of it." So basically he's like, I don't care.
He's like, yeah, but also it's cool.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, like that's just one thing. Like there's other meanings behind it too. So it's not like, he's like, but it's also royalty, so get over yourself. And it was also around this time that he legally changed his last name to Mercury. So by this point he was Freddie Mercury. Freddie designed the Queen crest. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that. But I mean, he was a graphic designer, right?
Yeah. So it incorporates the zodiac signs of all the band members. It has 2 lions because Taylor and Deacon were Leos. It has a crab on there because Brian May was a Cancer. And it has 2 fairies to represent Mercury, who was a Virgo. It also incorporates a phoenix and a Q with a crown. So it has all these elements that represents all the band members. And I'm just like, that's kind of cool that he did a lot of their own design stuff. So I was like, that's kind of cool that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
He didn't have somebody else do it. He was very involved with a lot of, musically design stuff. I'm just like, this man, I really believe he was just so ahead of his time in a lot of ways. Don't know if you knew this. Freddie was born with 4 extra incisors.
It's a lot of teeth. Okay.
Yeah, it is a lot of teeth. And that's why he had the more buck tooth looking upper and the really large overbite. That's what, caused the buck tooth look, which when he was a kid, a lot of kids called him Bucky because of it. But they also believe that because of that, it also helped him have that infamous 4-octave vocal range that he's known for.
Interesting. Okay.
Because it helped him with, I guess, he had more room in his mouth. Because, a lot of singers, you have to be able to open your mouth wide. And so I think people wanted him to try it, especially once they started making it and had money and all that. People wanted him to try to get his teeth fixed, and he refused because he was afraid that would
change his sound.
Yeah, that would affect how he would sing and how he would sound. And he was like, no, absolutely not. Not going to do that. And people like Andrew Lloyd Webber, when he wrote Jesus Christ Superstar, he said that he envisions, like, for Jesus, the type of singer like Freddie Mercury. Like, not saying that he wanted Freddie Mercury to play Jesus, but that type of voice.
Not saying it either.
Right. But like, he wanted somebody with that kind of vocal range and that sound, like somebody who could sing rock with that range. That was, and had that kind of showmanship too, because and Mercury was known to be able to sing just about any kind of style of music, including opera, which I was, he's was all over the place. I mean, even like you can hear it in their music. None of their music is just like, how a lot of people, like, you hear them on the radio and you're like, oh, I know who that is. Like, I don't even have to hear. You're like, I know who that is. But Queen is just like, musically, they're all over the place. Not only vocally, but Mercury was gifted as a songwriter. And if you listen to their greatest hits album, he penned 10 of the 17 songs on there. And he also wrote songs in multiple different styles, ranging from rock to disco to gospel to heavy metal to rockabilly and opera. So, I mean, the man, like I said, I really feel like he was ahead of his time. He did not like paint himself into a corner like, this is what I have to do. I really feel like he was a visionary when it came to music. And as we all know, he was a very gifted showman. When he got on stage, he I really feel like he left it all out there. At Queen's concerts and stadium shows, he was known for his costumes and his outfits, and especially his high energy performances. And one of the things was he was known for engaging the crowd and getting them involved instead of just standing there and cheering. He would have them one of the things was doing that call and response thing, especially at that the Live Aid performance at Wembley Stadium, that kind of thing. And even doing the We Will Rock You, getting people to do the clap and the stomp, like getting them involved doing that. He was known for getting them. And in fact, Queen is one of the ones known for getting like the stadium rock going. Whoops, hit my microphone. They were one of the ones who first started getting the stadium rock thing going in the US and UK. That wasn't really a thing, like filling these big, huge stadiums. Mercury's personal life was always questioned in the press. They were always like asking him about his sexuality. A lot of people like to say that he was gay. Really, honestly, he was bisexual. And I think that gets glossed over a lot because one of his first long-term relationships was a woman named Mary Austin. He was 24 and she was 19 when they first got together, and they lived together for several years. And by 1976, he admitted his bisexuality to Mary and that he had affairs with men and women. And so their relationship ended, but it wasn't on a bad note. It was, I mean, they still remained friends. And even though she moved out, he bought her a place to live and that was near him. I mean, he still loved her and cared for her. And they remain like the closest friends for the rest of his life. And he referred to her as his only true friend.
Oh, that's
and
sad.
I know. Yeah. And he was also in a relationship with a restaurateur named Winifred Kirchberger. So, I mean, he had many notable female relationships as male relationships. The one that the most notable male relationship was his long-term relationship with an Irish hairdresser, Jim Hutton, who he remained with. He started dating him in 1985 and remained with him for the rest of his life. He referred to him as his husband, and he even wore like a gold band that Jim Hutton had gotten him, and he was like cremated with it on. So, Mercury always dodged the press's questions, which also I get it, because it's like, even though being gay had been decriminalized in England, it was still taboo. And also it's like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Like the press, I mean, it's like late 80s, early 90s. And it's like, why do you care?
Yeah.
It was still like, why do you care?
Just let it go.
Yeah. I mean, his bandmates obviously did not care.
No.
They still loved him anyway. But he always wanted to keep his private life private. He was not as much as a showman and as flashy as he was on stage. Off stage, he was the exact opposite. Like he was not outgoing off stage. He was very reserved, not really, when it came to the press. And he was just like very much, this is compartmentalized. We're gonna, this is the show. This is my life. They're two separate areas. We're not mixing these two. But some say that Mercury possibly started showing symptoms of HIV/AIDS as early as 1982. Not sure how true that is. I mean, it was like maybe not. In October of 86, a couple of British newspapers reported that he had his blood tested for that, but Mercury stated that he was fine, that nothing was amiss. His partner, Jim Hutton, said that he was actually diagnosed with AIDS in April of 1987.
Okay.
So he knew then, even though Mercury had said in an interview after that he was negative. Like he did not want
that. It's no one's business.
He didn't want it out publicly. He did not want the public to know that he had it. Over the next few years, the press continued to feed on rumors about his health. due to his deteriorating appearance, because it was like anytime he went out, he continued to lose weight. So it was just, and Queen stopped touring. And so that also was like, oh, they've stopped touring. He's losing weight. Something's happening. Because you know how the press is. They're like vultures. As they do. February 18th, 1990 was the final time he was seen on stage anywhere. It was Mercury's last appearance at the Brit Awards, and Queen received the Outstanding Contribution to British Music Award as a group. And so they went up and received the award together. And after that, everybody, Mercury, the band, his inner circle, they continued to deny the rumors that he had AIDS. A lot of people kind of wished that he hadn't, that maybe if he'd come out and said that he had it, they could have maybe, battled some of the taboo against AIDS at that point. But because it was such a, even then, back then it was like, it was the gay disease. That was.
Well, and if he was as reserved and introspective in his personal life, it makes sense to me that he's like, my role isn't to make it better for other people. I have to give a damn about myself and what I need,
Right.
100% fair.
Right. And I think that's what it was. Yeah. And summer of 91, he was still, even though this is like nearing the end of his life, he was still recording and filming a music video. It was These Are the Days of Our Lives. And he would come in and he would record with the band whenever he felt able enough to do so, maybe for just 1 or 2 hours, if he, feel like he could. But in that music video, I think he only appears in it like towards the end, and he looks really, really frail and thin. Does not look healthy at all. But most of the people around him in the last month said that he just wanted to create stuff and didn't want to burden people with his tragedy. So he just he wouldn't talk about it. And that was one of a lot of the people who worked with him, who were, not even like his band members, but a lot of the other people around him who were in the studio and stuff, said that he never talked about it, and that you didn't talk about it, you didn't ask about it. And if you weren't for sure, it was like, don't say anything. And a lot of the time it was like, a lot of people didn't know. It was like, we don't know, don't ask, don't, but he didn't want that to be the focus. It was always, let's make the music, let's do our jobs. In that, Brian May said that Mercury just kept telling him to keep writing him stuff for him to sing, and that when he was gone, the band could finish it off. That was his mentality, and that, he just wanted to keep working. And so when they were done recording in June, that Freddie Mercury just went to his home in Kensington, and that Mary Austin, she would come there regularly to visit, and that Jim Hutton was with him, and that the last couple of months that he began refusing medications except painkillers, because he was just kind of done. It was just like, I just don't want to be in pain, which I was like, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And then November 23rd, 1991, Mercury released a public statement revealing to the world that he had AIDS. And on November 24th, 1991, Mercury passed from bronchial infection because he had AIDS, because he could not heal from it. So, but Queen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001. All 4 members were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2003. Queen was inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2004. Mercury himself won the Brit Award in 1992 for Outstanding Contribution to British Music, and Queen received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018.
Wow.
And I just want to say that when they did their music video, I Want to Break Free, all of them dressed up as women. Like the whole premise was they were housewives. Like the song is I Want to Break Free. And they're all housewives and they want to quit doing their lives where they're just vacuuming and making dinner for their husbands and like doing the housewife thing. But they're all dressed up as women. And I'm like, would that even fly today with all this like nonsense about, oh, we can't have drag queens and, you know, and the fact that he was able to get his 3 other straight bandmates
to do it, yeah,
to dress up and do this music video with that. Like I said, I just really feel like the man was ahead of his time. And that he pushed boundaries, but again, he wasn't like in your face about it. He had his private life and he lived it. I think the man led a very full life, to be honest. And one of the things, I did see that Bohemian Rhapsody movie and I did like it. But one of the complaints is that people said they just kind of glossed over the bisexual aspect. And I do think they did that. They just kind of, I mean, it was like, he was with Mary Austin. And then after that, it was like, he's gay. And I don't, and it wasn't, you know, a lot of people will argue, but I really do feel like he was bisexual because I think he was one of those people, he just loved everybody.
Well, I feel like that for some reason, I mean, I'm straight. I'm not in the community. I don't understand it all. So don't at me. I'm doing this out of a place of what I have read and understand, is that there seems to be a lot of pushback even within some of that community on bisexuality.
There is.
So I'm like,
I have friends who are in that community, and from what I've heard from them, and even like I have several female friends who like, who would have thought that I would have like wound up like this? I have several female friends who are married to men who are bisexual, and you know, people would be like, "Oh, you're straight," and they're like, "No, I'm not." You know, and it's just
that
like
the partner I chose to be with,
the one that I fell in love with, is a man, and there's that kind of stigma too, where it's like,
but you chose, and I'm like, but what the hell? It's not
right. And so they get that kind of pushback too, where it's like, oh, well, you're not really bi because you married a man, and it's like that's not how that works. If something were to happen, God forbid, but if something were to happen to their partner, that doesn't mean that they've like shoehorned into only like, you know, they could still go back out and choose a woman or, you know, somebody else. You know, it doesn't negate their bisexuality just because the person they decided to get married to is a man. And it just, I feel like there has been a lot of the bisexuality aspect there. It's like, even, from what I've heard from friends, is that's kind of the one that's left out when it comes to like the gay and the lesbians. It's like, oh, you kind of like, you can't have it both ways.
Like, but you can,
right?
You can. So
and then I've had friends who were like, I'm on it's a spectrum. They describe it as a spectrum where it's like, if they're gay, it's like, I prefer men, you know, but I'm not, you know, I mean, I have friends, I mostly prefer men, but you know, I might not.
But I mean, that's like me. It's like, I mean, I would say I'm straight, but I mean, Keira Knightley is hot. Okay, like
I know that Keira Knightley is like
she's my one. I would go gay for. Like, just everything about her just brings me joy. I don't know. So like, I assume that we are all somewhere on a spectrum.
Right.
So who knows what you would do if you met, you know, just the right person that happened to be, you know, the same sex or the opposite sex, depending on where you fall. So,
right. But anyway,
fascinating.
Freddie Mercury, bisexual icon. He is. Whenever anybody's like, if there was one famous person that you could bring back and go see a concert, he would be it, hands down. I don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be the one. I'm so sad that I was not born and I could not go to that Wembley concert. Like, that would have been the one that I would have been like, I want to be there so bad. That would have been the one for me. That's my if I could bring back any famous person.
So you're saying there, if we figure out time travel,
yeah,
you're going to that concert.
I am.
All right, then.
I am. If Doctor Who comes in his TARDIS,
you're like, look, I have one request. After that, we can save the universe, whatever. But can we please just go to this concert?
One thing. That's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we can go anywhere. That's all I want.
Well, that was excellent, Claire. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, who are you talking about?
So, the reason I had asked you who you were doing is because I had toyed with doing like Elton John, like huge, important, big, like
right.
And, hell, we've actually seen him in concert, Claire.
Right. You know what? He was like second on my list. He was like, he was a maybe. That's Freddie Mercury. It was like Freddie Mercury, Elton John. Those were my top two.
So I was like, maybe I'll go a different route instead. And
so having like two musicians,
which one, especially within the same time period. So I was like, let me try something else. So I instead went back a little further, and I decided that I wanted to do Oscar Wilde.
Whoa. Yes.
So I got my information from Wikipedia because, from history and from an article in An Other magazine. Not another, An Other.
And Other. Two
magazines.
Gotcha.
So, Oscar Wilde was born on October the 16th, 1854. And his name, are you ready?
Yes.
I mean, it was Oscar Wilde, so there's that. But it was Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wheels Wilde.
Oh my gosh. What is that thing? How do you spell that second one?
Fingal, Fingal.
Wow.
And he was born in Dublin, hence the O'Flaherty.
Right.
And in fact, the house in which he spent his early childhood was born in, is now the Oscar Wilde Center of Trinity College. So
nice.
For those of you who don't know, Oscar Wilde is an Irish poet and playwright, and may be best remembered for his one novel, The Picture of Dorian Grey. At least that's how he is most remembered in my heart. I loved that story when I was younger, like a kiddish, like just a little bit over kiddish. It was like, what? The painting was aging. What? It's total mindfuck. His parents were Anglo-Irish intellectuals in Dublin named Jane L.G. and Sir William Wilde, who was one of Ireland's leading ear and eye surgeons. And I'm like, they're doing ear and eye surgery in 1854?
What? What kind of ear and eye surgery are they doing in the 1800s?
I don't know. But I was like, okay. Anyway, he was the second of three children, 2 years younger than the oldest, 3 years older than his sister, whom he loved dearly, but she died very tragically at 9 from fever, because it's the 1850s, guys.
Right.
He also had...
Wait. They can't figure out fever, but we're operating on eyes and ears.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm throwing some side eye. I really am.
I don't know what they're doing on eyes and ears, because I'm like, unless you're just like removing a rotted eye or something, like what else are you doing? What are you you're not sticking anything inside my ear, are you? Like, what is happening?
I know. I'm like, what? Anyway, sorry. No, it was just like, wait.
I know. It's like, what?
We still haven't figured out fever, but we're operating on eyes and ears.
I mean, I'm sure it was a particularly bad fever, but I don't know.
I mean,
But Oscar also had 3 half siblings who had been born out of wedlock before William married Jane.
Scandal.
But William did acknowledge paternity of the children and provided for them to be raised by his relatives. So God only knows what happens to the women, because I'm sure they were dirty, dirty whores. It's 1850. So I'm sure they got a lot of nothing, but at least the children were acknowledged and cared for, and that's something.
Right. I started to say, wow, that's like more than a lot of people would have
done. So Oscar Wilde was incredibly smart, like just could speed read, he claimed that he could read like both sides of the page, like on a book. He could read both pages at the same time, essentially.
Whoa.
And could read through like a real book, like a book in like 30 minutes, and would be able to like give you highlights of the book, like be able to tell you about it. And I'm like,
I'm jealous.
Okay.
I'm jealous of
I know. He also was fluent in French and German and was really gifted at languages, which I guess makes sense. He's a writer.
Right.
But because of this, he was able to win a royal scholarship and ended up going to Trinity College in Dublin, home of the Book of Kells, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And then later went to Magdalen College in Oxford, because he also was so good. They were like, oh, bring him to Oxford. Now, while at Oxford, he petitioned to join the Apollo Masonic Lodge. Because
Masons are so weird.
I know. But he was attracted to its costume, like the dress, the secrecy, and the ritual of it all. And so he actually rose to the level of sublime degree of Master Mason. That means nothing to me. I don't know what that is. But it sounds like he didn't just like hang out for a little bit.
Yeah. Like he was really in it.
And
he was invested.
He commented that he would be, this is weird. He would be awfully sorry to give it up if I secede from the Protestant heresy. He's had the weirdest like relationship with religion, because his family grew up Protestant, which is fascinating because it's Ireland, but
right.
So he was Protestant. Freemasons is weird. I don't know, whatever. But he eventually like let his...
And Protestants think everything is the devil.
That's fair. He eventually let his membership lapse because he got busy doing other things.
They probably were like, oh, there's a ritual? It's Satan.
Well, it is Satan. All Satan.
It's Satan.
After he graduated, he was reintroduced to Florence Balcombe, who was his childhood sweetheart. But she broke his heart and married Bram Stoker instead.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's like, it's a small fucking world, isn't it?
Ugh. Drop one poet for another author? What?
Mm-hmm. But in 1881, he was introduced to Constance Lloyd, who was the daughter of Horace Lloyd, the Queen's counsel, the Queen's lawyer. Very wealthy. She just happened to be visiting when he was lecturing at a theater, and they hit it off. He proposed. They got married in 1884. Yada, yada, yada. But also around this, Wilde was super attracted to Catholicism.
But why?
Because of its rich liturgy. Like, again, it's costumes, Claire. It's ritual. It's a little bit of secrecy. You know, I've got my incense thing and I'm doing the blah, blah, blahs. And you say the magic words and abracadabra. I mean, kind of. There's very specific words in Catholicism. You say these words to get the things you need to be forgiven or whatever.
Right.
But his father, who was a diehard Protestant, threatened to cut off any funding to Oscar if he did. And so at one point, like, Oscar was really close to converting. Like, he had like a date set.
Oh.
And instead he sent the priest that he had been talking to sent him a bunch of altar lilies on the day of his intended baptism because he was like, and I can't, sorry. But it's all fascinating because this whole time, Wilde was known for his biting wit. He sounds like a fun guy, but also his flamboyant dress. This is our unifying factor.
And, I mean, if he's going to these things because he likes their costumes, I mean.
And his glittering, I took that direct quote, conversational skills.
Glittering, okay.
So when he was in Oxford, he was known for having long hair, which is not the thing.
Yeah.
He openly scorned manly sports.
Oh boy.
He decorated his room with peacock feathers and lilies.
Oh, yes.
And sunflowers and blue china, very specifically. And he entertained lavishly and hung out with other people who were into the aesthetic movement. Now, the aesthetic movement was growing in popularity at this point. You don't know what that is, probably, because why would anybody remember any of this from history? Just saying. This is not the normal things you hold on to. But the aesthetic movement suggested that you should focus on beauty rather than trying to convey like moral or political messages in your art. Like paint something beautiful, write about something beautiful. Stop morals, stop political garbage. Let's just because it's nice. And so while everyone else is all tight-laced, buttoned-up Victorians, because it's 1800s, he's wearing very colorful velvets and silks and kept his hair long. And I love it so much. It was so funny. So, like, he obviously was getting, I mean, it's 1800s. It's not that different. People, of course, were like, oh, he's a dandy. You know, we don't.
Oh, right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so at one point, 4 of his fellow students went to physically assault him. And he fended them off all by himself because he was like, just because I'm a dandy don't mean I can't hit. It's like, damn.
Good for him.
I know, right?
Good for him.
So after college, he's married to, I've already forgotten her name.
Constance.
Why, yes. Good job, Claire.
See, I'm listening.
I appreciate that. So he's married to Constance. I'm too busy thinking about Florence, who like was like, oh, Bram Stoker. But he is doing a lot of travel. He goes to Canada in North America, where he is doing lectures on English Renaissance in art. Again, the aesthetic movement. As well as lectures on interior decorating, which I think is hilarious.
Love that.
And when he gets back from that journey, he starts lecturing in London, which I think is actually how he met Constance, was at the lecture in which he talked about his American travels, because they're like, oh, tell us about America, because no one goes.
Right, yeah.
And he wrote...
I feel like people really didn't travel that much back then.
No, I mean, it's
at
harder.
Least not like
it's
transcontinentally anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's several days on a boat.
Right.
That sounds shitty. And so at this point,
does not sound like a fun time.
He did his lectures. He did literary reviews for magazines. And this is when he wrote his only novel, The Picture of Dorian Grey. Highly recommend. You should watch. You should read or watch or whatever. He also traveled to Paris, to France. And for a period of time that he was hanging out, living in Paris, he wrote a drama called Salome, I'm uncertain. Salome. And like he wrote it there. He wrote it in French because he's that good. But he tried to get a license for it in England when he came back, and they said no.
Because it was in French, or why?
Because in England, it was explicitly prohibited to have the portrayal of biblical subjects on the English stage.
That's dumb.
Oh my god. I mean, like, England then is basically what America is now. Like, just shitty, weird stuff that you're like, what the fuck? Nobody cares. Anyway.
Gosh.
But he took it all in stride and ended up writing 4 comedies that made him one of the most successful playwrights of late Victorian London. Like, he was huge, including An Ideal Husband and the one that everyone knows, The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, what you don't know is that also during this time, Oscar Wilde had always been intrigued by Greek love and had a friend that had initiated him into quote unquote homosexual sex. And
wait, when you say initiated,
this is a quote. I don't know.
You can't elaborate.
I cannot elaborate.
I'm just like, are we talking about just like
elaborate
introduced him or like introduced him?
Don't know. Quote was specific. And so unsurprisingly, that was not super great for his marriage.
Yeah, I can see that.
His marriage really began to unravel after his wife's second pregnancy, because he had kids with her. During her second pregnancy, he became physically repelled by her, which sounds pretty dramatic.
I've heard of that happening with some men. It's like once the woman becomes pregnant and has a baby, then it's like they literally can't.
And like, that sounds horrifying and terrible.
Yeah.
For all parties involved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sorry that happened. Ugh.
So Oscar ends up getting into several different relationships. One of them is with the son of the 9th Marquess of Queensberry. The Marquess was John Douglas, and the son was Lord Alfred Douglas, who was a handsome and spoiled young man, apparently.
Okay.
And so they had quite the intimate friendship by 1893, and Wilde was infatuated. Like, they were together frequently. And though Wilde very flamboyant, tried to be somewhat discreet. Like, not overly, but like he more so than Douglas. Douglas was very reckless about it in public, whereas Wilde was like, we can allude, but like, people are gonna know, but they're not gonna know.
He's like, dial it back, my dude.
And so, but Oscar was just completely in love, indulged Douglas's every whim, whether it was material, artistic, sexual. And so Lord Alfred Douglas was super into the Victorian underground world of gay prostitution. And so got Oscar Wilde into it by introducing him to a series of young working class male prostitutes known as rent boys.
Rent? Like R-E-N-T?
R-E-N-T.
Okay. Well.
And typically those interactions would be Wilde would meet the boy.
This sounds so skeezy.
It is so skeezy. Offer him gifts, dine with him privately, and then take him to a hotel room. It's so skeezy.
Because when we refer to him as a boy,
I know. I'm
thinking
young.
child.
And again, this is where my brain hurts, because it's like 1890s. And so, like, to me, anything under like 18 is disgusting. But then once you're 12, you're a fucking adult. So like, I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah.
So all of that is in here it's complicated. It's complicated, okay?
I know, because then I'm like, is this a 13-year-old we're talking about? Because, oh my gosh. I'm just like, gross.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh, you're a groomer, pedophile.
But
stop it.
I would like to just go ahead and remind everyone, this is 1890s. These rent boys, as they're phrased, are consenting adults in their time. They know what they're doing, and no one's so like,
I know, but still, like, trying to reconcile.
I'm trying to bring it back. I'm trying to bring it back to be like, let's be, my brain can't handle it in 2024, but okay,
right.
So, John Douglas, the Marquis, or Marquess. I'm staring at it and not sure anymore. So John knew that his son was troubled, spoiled, unusual. I don't know what word we want to use here. Really did not like the relationship with Oscar Wilde and would be kind of like hateful about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on February 18th, in 1895, he left his calling card at Oscar Wilde's club called the Albemarle. And written on the card was, for Oscar Wilde, posing sodomite. Which is like shots fired. Like, it's one thing that everybody knows, but this is like you're saying a thing. And so
I'm like, whoa, them's fighting words.
Wilde was really upset about it, and Alfred was really encouraging him to like initiate like private prosecution, like a court case against him for defamation, essentially.
Right.
But like everyone, like all of Wilde's other friends were like, don't do this. This is a bad idea. Don't pursue this.
Just let it go.
Mm-hmm. But,
drop it.
Oscar loves Alfred and will do anything Alfred says. And so he did it.
Boo.
And so the problem is that because he did put forth this case, John gets arrested for criminal libel, which carries a sentence of up to 2 years in prison. And one of the only ways to really avoid conviction is to demonstrate that the accusation is actually true. So it's not libel, it's truth.
So then they've got to start digging into...
And so he hires private detectives who easily find evidence of Oscar Wilde's homosexual liaisons.
Right.
Including associations with blackmailers, male prostitutes, cross-dressers, homosexual brothels. They interviewed people. Some were even coerced to appear as witnesses and accomplices. And so it ends up being his charges get dropped, and then Oscar Wilde gets arrested for, I think, indecency. I don't even know how they... Gross indecency with other males is the charge. So there were 2 trials. In the first trial, the jury was unable to reach a verdict, mistrial. But in the second trial, he was obviously convicted because people were like, but he did.
Right.
And was sentenced to 2 years of hard labor, which is the maximum penalty.
Oh, gosh.
And so, during his imprisonment, it was horrific. He wrote a long letter that kind of discusses his spiritual journey through the trials, the dark counterpart. It was really like a dark counterpart to his happy, pleasurable, beautiful philosophy that he had been going up to this point.
Right.
He called it De Profundis. And his time in prison was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Pretty fucking awful. On the day that he was released, he took an overnight steamer to France and never returned to Britain or Ireland again. He was like, fuck this country.
He's like, I'm getting out of here.
While he was in France, he wrote a long poem that commemorated the harshness of prison life called The Ballad of Reading Gaol. How do you say the jail? That's like Gaol? Gaol?
I think so.
Yeah. That was the name of one of the prisons he was in, was Reading Gaol. Mm-hmm. While he was in France, he was basically impoverished, lived his life in exile. Like, he had fallen from grace in England.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He started going by the name Sebastian Melmoth. And wrote letters to the editor of the Daily Chronicle describing the brutal conditions of English prison, and really was advocating for penal reform. Like, it was really terrible. Yeah. And in the Ballad of Reading Gaol, he narrates the real execution of Charles Thomas Wooldridge, who had murdered his wife after finding out that she had cheated on him, and he, passion, rage, murdered her, which is terrible. But the story ends up moving from like talking about that to really dealing with the fact that the brutality of punishment that exists for people in prisons, and that there needs to be more intent in assessing the justice of some of the laws that are in place. It's like, it shouldn't be you do a thing and you get this horrific sentence. Like, there's nothing that's ever considered, and you don't know what it's like here. And it's pretty terrible. Like, he was so happy and bright and shiny, awful. And then everything is just like, everything is dark and sad and miserable. And I'm like, holy fuck. So even though Alfred Douglas had been kind of the cause of all of the misfortunes that had just completely spun everything out of control, he and Oscar were reunited in 1897 in Rouen in France, even though their friends and their families were like, don't do this.
Like, this could be disastrous.
Just stop. Meanwhile, his wife Constance is refusing to let him see the son. She's refusing to come see him or brings it. Like, she's like, no, we're done. But she did send him £3 a week so that he wouldn't die. But like, that's it. So for a few months, Alfred and Oscar lived together near Naples. But their families were threatening to cut off all funding, and so they had to go their separate ways.
Rude.
I know, right?
Like, they're not hurting anybody.
I know.
They were like not even near them. They're living by themselves. Why do you care? Because,
I mean, it was huge news, I guess. Like, it's a tarnish on their pristine reputations of garbage. I don't know. It seemed really shitty to me.
It is shitty.
So at this point, Oscar Wilde is living in like a really shitty hotel. It's really run down. He has nothing. And in November of 1900, he ends up getting meningitis.
Ooh, no.
And a priest was sent for who conditionally baptized Oscar Wilde into the Catholic Church, which is what he wanted. He wanted to be Catholic. I mean, it's complicated, but whatever. Right. And Oscar Wilde died November 30th, 1900. Now, initially he was buried just outside of Paris, but his remains were eventually transferred to another cemetery inside the city about 10 years later. And they had a tomb designed, one of his like lifelong friends that had always kind of been there for him and give a shit, but also who introduced him into homosexuality. So there's that. Whatever that means. I'm like, introduced to. It sounds to me like he kind of just maybe was, at least bi.
Right.
Had,
like, I feel like it had to have been there initially anyway.
Had commissioned a tomb there for him, and included a small compartment within Oscar Wilde's tomb for his own ashes to be placed. The guy, his name was Robert Ross, and I'm like, okay. It feels like a little bit more than friendship, but
they were roommates.
And so, on this tomb was a modernist angel that was depicted as a relief, and originally it had male genitalia that initially had been censored by the French authorities with the gold leaf, of course. Got to cover that.
Oh, okay.
But since then, the genitals have been vandalized and their current whereabouts are unknown.
People are terrible.
I know.
People are so rude.
But in 2000, Leon Johnson, a multimedia artist, installed a silver prosthesis. How do you say this? A prosthesis, right?
Prosthetic?
Right, but it's not prosthetic. It's prosthesis. But anyway, that thing. Installed a silver version of genitals to replace them.
Excellent. I love it.
And also in 2011, the tomb had to be cleaned of the many lipstick marks that had been left there by admirers.
Oh my God, that's disgusting. Not just because of like what it is, but like the fact that it's public and kissing it.
Yeah, don't
anything.
Yeah, it just.
I feel like it's one thing to like touch it, and then you can just go put some like hand sanitizer on your hands.
I find it super fascinating. It's like, okay, we're gonna go here. I'm gonna put on my lipstick so that I can leave my lipstick marks behind. I mean, all right. The epitaph on the tomb is a verse from the ballad of Reading Gal, whatever. And alien tears will fill for him pity's long broken urn, for his mourners will be outcast men, and outcasts always mourn. It's so fucking sad. So in 2017, just letting you know, Wilde was among an estimated 50,000 men who were pardoned for homosexual acts that were no longer considered offenses under the Policing and Crime Act of 2017. And I was like, oh, good.
Why did we take that long to do that?
The 2017 Act implements what is known informally as the Alan Turing Law. Because, as Claire mentioned, homosexual acts were still a criminal offense until the late 1960s. Now, just to give you some perspective, in France, homosexuality was decriminalized in 1791. The French are better than all of us. Whatever. We've all known it.
The French don't care.
So I bring up Oscar Wilde, not just because he had a horrific life, as someone who fell within, because no one knows if he was gay, if he was bi, because it's 1850s. He definitely was into men. Now, whether or not he was also into women or not, I mean, he had 2 kids, so like it's complicated. So he is an icon for the struggles that exist for LGBTQ. And it was in the courtroom of his trial that the euphemism for sexuality, the love that dare not speak its name, was coined. And I was like, oh, damn. And when Oscar was questioned about what that meant, it's like, what does that mean? The love that dare not speak its name. And he said, it is a deep spiritual affection that is as pure as it is perfect. It dictates and pervades great works of art. It's beautiful. It's fine. It's the noblest form of affection. The world mocks at it and sometimes puts one in the pillory for it. And you're like, God damn it.
Wow.
And he later said, to regret one's own experiences is to arrest one's own development. To deny one's own experiences is to put a lie into the lips of one's own life. It is no less than a denial of the soul. Like, he very eloquently was able to really speak to what it is that society's trying to take from people. It's like you're trying to take a piece of who we are.
We are.
This is who we are, and you're taking it. But he's essentially a martyr to the cause, for lack of a better word, in that even though he wasn't, like, he never really wrote about his sexuality openly, there were lots of hints, there's lots of euphemism, and he was never really afraid to kind of tell it like it is, while also, within the bounds of the times.
Right.
And, it's a reminder of the reality that in still many countries, it's still illegal. People are still oppressed and persecuted.
Mm-hmm.
Lives completely ruined in the way Oscar Wilde's was completely ruined. I mean, who knows what else we could have had? What other amazing pieces of work we could have had if, we weren't Victorian assholes in the 1890s.
Yes. Facts.
So, that is my story on Oscar Wilde, and the fact that he's badass, because this horrible shit happened, but like he still, like, he wrote for prison reform, and he didn't like give in to to what friends and family wanted him to do. And he was like, even though he was miserable and eventually died basically penniless, it's like, damn it. So that is my very sad story about Oscar Wilde.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. That was a downer.
It was a downer.
Oops. I'll do better next time.
Okay.
All right, Claire, what are you judging this week?
I'm judging, I don't even know which generation you want to call this. Gen Z, I guess. Is it Gen Z?
Probably.
Or even baby millennials.
Oh,
I don't even
know. The crossovers, the people who are on the cuspers.
I guess. Anyway, there's some of them out there who, but some of them, I work with some of them, don't think, and I don't know how people feel about this, but it was just like the fact that I work with like 3 people who don't think that the moon landing happened. And I'm just like, what are your sources? I want to know what your sources are. Because they're telling me it's fact.
It's not fact. It's not.
They're like, Claire, it's factual. They did it on a soundstage, and they're like, and it's fact because the astronauts themselves came out and said it. And I'm like, where are these?
Where is
this?
What
are your sources?
Who said it?
When did they say know? It? Yes,
because like I googled this and I haven't found a source that says that happened.
I need sources. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I want your sources, please.
Yes.
Because April said something about moon landing or space earlier, and I asked her, I was like, oh, speaking of that, what's your stance on the moon landing? how do you feel? Because I feel like I'm kind of like you. I feel like it could go either way. If it wasn't real, it wouldn't surprise me.
But like,
however, out of the things,
I'm assuming it's real.
I want it to be real because space fascinates me. And anyway, that it's just, I want that one to be real. As far as and I just feel like people who get caught up in these conspiracy theories is just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yes.
The one that I'll die on that hill as far as conspiracy theories are concerned is that the government had something to do with JFK's death and assassination. I will die on that hill. Some part of the government was behind.
There's something so weird about that story that I'm like, wait.
I will die on that hill. They had something to do. They had something to do with that. Anyway, but also, I don't know if you all know this. There's a sect of like these Gen Z people who don't think that Helen Keller existed, or if she did exist, that it was all fake.
Which is the dumbest fucking thing. I'm like,
and
what the hell?
And there is something that's going around, and I've seen TikToks about it, and I'm just like, what is happening? What are you people learning in school these days? That they're getting Helen Keller confused with Amelia Earhart. And so they're like out there yelling, and apparently there is like a part where if you Google it, it'll come up that Helen Keller apparently did fly a plane for like 12 seconds or some bullshit like that.
You know, like you would let a child pretend like they're flying, but really they're not. Yeah, sure.
Right. Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, but they're talking about her like flying around the world. And I'm just like, no. What is happening? What is happening right now? Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm like, what are you all learning in school? I don't even like what is happening?
Well,
it's like the whole Helen Keller, like her being deaf and blind is a lie and that it was fake. And I'm just like, are you all listening to the same people who said that the Holocaust was fake too? Yeah. Is this the same? Are these the same people who are teaching you? I don't understand.
I said to Claire, I said, what is insane to me is like, we are finally getting to the place where the baby boomer idiots, not all of them are idiots, I know, but like they're aging out, so to speak.
Right.
And so eventually Fox News is going to have a smaller population to watch their conspiracy theory garbage. And I'm like, Gen Z, we don't have time for this. We're finally getting rid of these idiots who don't understand how to fact check things. And now you're coming in with more bizarre bullshit. Get your shit together. We ain't got time for this.
I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, there's like a whole sect of people who don't think the Helen Keller, the whole thing was real, that it was all a lie, and they're like, prove it. And I'm like,
prove that it was fake.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, like disprove it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you're telling me that somebody just like did a bunch of shit in her hands and that she knew that water was water? And I'm like, it wasn't that fucking easy. Like,
no, it's not like, all, like we spent 20 minutes together.
Book?
Yeah.
Have you all read a book?
It's like years of work.
Like it wasn't like it just fucking happened. You know? Like, I just anyway. But the fact that like 3 people that I work with think that the moon landing was completely fake and they think it's factual, and I'm just like, I want your facts. I want to know.
Please show me these sources that you have, because I'd like
to know. Just because it's been depicted in TV and movies as being fake doesn't make it factual.
No. It's I'm just theory.
Like, I'm just over here, I'm like, you all make my head hurt.
Mm-hmm. God, that's exhausting. I'm sorry. That's
I'm just like,
I'm not sure how I'd react to that.
They're telling me it's factual, and I'm just like, where are you getting your facts?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know. Please show me, please. Mm-hmm. Where are these resources that you were reading to tell you that this is factual and that these astronauts said that it was? They're like, oh yeah, this is like right before they died. They said blah blah blah, and I'm just like, where did you read this?
Where is this?
Where did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if it was like so and so's cousin's brother's sister's dog, then no, I'm not gonna believe.
Or if it's just some random YouTuber here, hi, I know I am, but like just saying, hey, I read this in Israel. I'm like, yeah.
Right.
But where?
But I'm like, what website did you get this off of?
Yeah.
I mean, was it like a legitimate website or
this is one of the reasons why I find it important to include our sources for our information.
Right. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I just don't. I have no words because I'm just like, what is happening? Like, people are, and that's what like somebody I know was like, well, that's where I get my news. I get my news off of TikTok.
I get a lot of mine there too, but
I'm just
from like one specific source, Under the Desk News.
I love them. I love them.
I mean, I love them so much, and they are they talk to a lot of people. They're always connecting you to other people, and then they're showing.
Yeah,
you,
and they cite their stuff, and they'll tell you like, and it's like if you need to know anything, they'll tell you like where to go to find other sources.
Yes,
they cite stuff. They're very thorough about anything they post. So I've watched Under the Desk News. That's one of the ones. But if you're just watching some kind of like Joe Schmo, whatever, or if you're actually watching like an actual news source, a news sources TikTok, that's another thing too. Like a newspaper's TikTok, or
if they don't give you sources, and you can't find it at what are actually, decent sources that provide accurate information as a general rule, then
Right.
don't believe them.
Right.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah. And also, I just want to judge real quick. Ian Coulter is
okay.
A steaming pile of shit of a human being.
Oh, was that supposed to be breaking news or something? Because
no, but she reemerged.
Oh, wow.
And just reminder that she's a steaming pile of shit. She's a steaming pile of shit of a human being. Because did you see what she did?
I did not.
Oh, well. The DNC, when Tim Walz gave his speech, apparently his son stood up and was crying and said, "That's my dad." And there's a picture of him crying. And then Ann Coulter posts it and she goes, "Well, that's weird." Yeah. So then everybody is blasting her.
Good.
They start blasting her. And then, of course, they're like, his son is neurodivergent. He's got ADHD. He's got a form of autism where he's nonverbal, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't speak often. And then, but also Tim Walz comes back, and you saw the one where I think I sent it to you. He comes back with a tweet. He responds directly to her, and it takes a section out of her Wikipedia page. And he goes, "Well," or she said, "Talk about weird." That's what it was. She goes, "Well, talk about weird." And he goes, "Well, talk about why all your fiancés keep leaving you." And the section from the Wikipedia page says, "Coulter has been engaged several times, but has never been married and does not have any children."
Wow.
But apparently everybody started blasting her, so she took it down. And then it's like they start talking, but instead of apologizing for it, she was like, "Well, the second they told me that he had issues, I took it down." And it's like,
even if he didn't, fuck you.
Right. It's like, A, he's a child.
Yeah.
And B, who cares if he had issues?
Yeah.
Just because he's crying and he's overwhelmed with emotions because his dad, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, piece of shit. Yeah. Yes.
Who cares?
Judge that bitch. Yeah.
I know, her. Right? Yeah. And so now it's just everybody is blasting her, and I'm like, oh, because she decided to crawl out of the hole, the trash can that she's been hiding in, and attack a 17-year-old boy. It's like, fuck you, man. No, I'm not here for that bullshit.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent.
Douche canoe that she is. It's
wow.
And it's like, who cares if the kid has issues? You shouldn't have said it at all. And I've seen so many of these, and it really is true. The Republicans, after Tim Walz called them weird, their whole comeback is basically I know you are, but what am I? They're like, we're not weird, you're weird. It's like, okay, but we know we're weird. Yeah, but we're you all are but you all are the bad weird.
Yeah, you're the we don't sit at that table weird.
Yeah, you all are the we're gonna give you some side eye weird, because y'all got some crap going on in your basement we don't want to know about. Weird. But anyway, yeah. So that's my judge. Anyway.
Thank you.
So what are you judging?
Guys, I come to judge a thing that is going to change all of your lives. You don't even know it yet.
Oh, okay. Let's change our lives.
It's going to change your lives. Okay, so as you know, I very recently, we did an episode about the shit they don't teach you in schools, and I talked about marijuana.
Yes.
And we raged about that for a while. Well, I have been recently told, and I have done a little bit of research to make sure this isn't pure garbage.
Right.
Most of you know that in many states, if not all, you can buy hemp-derived gummies and things at a CBD-ish kind of place, but it has Delta 9 in it, is usually how it's phrased.
Yes.
So
I think you can even buy that online and get it shipped here.
You can get it.
Yes.
You can buy it online. They'll ship it to your door. You don't have to show an ID. Well, you may at some stores, but there's not.
Right.
You're not limited to a certain amount.
Right.
The amount of Delta 9 within the product isn't limited in the way that it is in states where it's legalized. There's only so much you can have in a product, blah, blah.
Right.
Turns out it's exactly the same fucking thing.
As
as if you go to a state where it's legal and you buy gummies, is the exact same thing. So hemp is this is how it was explained to me, and I looked it up a couple of places. So like this is not lies. Hemp is the male plant. Cannabis is the female plant. Hemp, the male plant, has less cannabinoids in each plant than the cannabis female plant. But when they make the stuff, they just use more plants. So it was explained to me, like one of the articles I read was explained. So like where it would take maybe 2 oranges to make a glass of orange juice, this one takes 6 oranges to make a glass of orange juice, but you still have the same glass of orange juice. So, hey everyone, where things aren't legal, you can enjoy whatever the fuck you want legally because it is completely legal. Just go visit your local retailer that has it and enjoy, and it's the same thing.
So the Delta 9
because
is the same.
It's the exact same thing that's coming out of THC. In fact, it even says it on the thing. It says THC, like it's exactly the same.
Interesting.
And I'm here to pass this along to everyone because I had always been like, oh, well, it's not as effective, blah, blah, blah. Well,
right. Yeah, that's what they're always trying to tell you. Is that
the plant itself isn't, but the product that you're getting is the same. They just use more plants to get the cannabinoids out to use.
Interesting.
So you're welcome, world. I'm judging the fact that, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper because there's not all sorts of crazy tax on it because it's not strictly managed and like it is in the states where it's legal. And I'm going, holy hell. And like a guy told me, I'm like, sure. But then I bothered to look it up and read it, and that it is correct. So
interesting.
Here to help.
You're like, I am just passing
along the fact that because our government is a giant fucking shithole of insanity, that you can actually buy the thing that everyone freaks out about legally, and it will give you the same high because it's actually the same fucking thing.
That's so asinine. That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
It is ridiculous.
That is fucking stupid. But we're going to tax this other shit.
The only
difference
is the male plant versus the female plant is the same fucking plant.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing.
Right?
And now we need the little star with the rainbow to flash across the screen that says the more you know.
The more you know. So that is what my judge is today. I'm hoping you can all take that and do with it whatever you so desire.
Wow. Interesting. Nice.
And on that note,
yes,
it must be time for Tarot Time with April. Spooky. Well, Claire, I don't know what to ask the cards this week. I was too excited to share my judge that I thought of nothing else. This whole time I've been going, I'm going to judge. Because it's like, today I did this. I learned this today. I mean, like I'd heard it before, but I actually bothered to,
to look
it up and read some actual sources to be like, this is right? And like, oh, it is right. So there you go.
Interesting.
Let's see.
I don't know.
Oh, I know. Dear Universe. Sometimes I send a letter. Dear Universe.
Yes.
Please tell us if Claire will ever get to go back in time to experience the concert at Wembley and fulfill her lifelong dream of seeing Freddie Mercury sing his heart out. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've not done a lot of, like,
oh my gosh,
physics or anything lately or understand how time works, but
I
have seen the movie Idiocracy, so This seems
I've seen it too.
This seems as good of a thing as ever. Which, having watched that movie, almost made me reconsider having children, because I was like, oh god, idiots are having children and they're populating the earth. Damn it.
No.
Smart people are like, nah. All right, let's find out. Are you ready?
Yes.
Claire's dreams. Are they coming true? We have justice. We have the Page of Swords. And we have... Why do we keep getting tens of things? The Tens of Wands. This is all the burden. You're going to be burdened with this, Claire. I'm so sorry.
Great.
Claire, you're going to be burdened. Okay. Justice. Let's see. Looking. This card is about being critical and impartial. There's no room here for empathy. It's cold, objective, and very, very fair. Okay. Sure.
Kind of like time.
You know, it's true. It's true. Kind of like time. Okay, so critical, impartial. That's interesting. Is that telling me that the universe is being critical and impartial and answering this question?
Probably like, listen, time travel doesn't exist, so quit asking me stupid stuff.
But it could exist. I'm not saying it has to happen now. I'm saying before, the whatever 2060, I don't know, when were we gonna die? 2070, 2080?
When we're gonna die.
2080? Yeah, it seems like 2075. Sure.
2075.
Page of Swords. There's a huge burst of energy. Just like time travel would require. And in fact, the Page of Swords is sharp as attack with razor sharp intellect, sharp wit, and looking sharp. So that is Oscar Wilde right there, thank you.
Yeah.
Just saying. So, or maybe, Freddie Mercury also was really into looking sharp.
He was
pretty sharp too. He's pretty smart, pretty capable of things. So like, okay. Okay, so interesting. And then the 10 of Wands. Okay, so obviously he's carrying a heavy bundle, which could be stress, obligation, fear, hate, resentment, yada yada yada. But he has everything taken care of. He's handling it. Yeah, he's carrying a big heavy burden, but he's got it. It's not a problem. So, he's carrying so much that he has nearly forgotten what he's carrying, where he's going, but just keeps on going. So maybe you'll
time travel is a burden.
It probably is, because like you'd have to go, and then you wouldn't be able to like fuck anything up.
Yeah. All I want to do is just go and stand and watch. Don't even talk to anybody. Just go and stand and watch.
To make sure that you wear correct clothing. You have the right ticket. You don't have your cell phone on you. It's gonna freak everybody out.
Right. No photos. No nothing.
So there you have it. It's gonna take a lot of critical thinking. It's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
But maybe.
One of these days.
Maybe. All right. What is going to be our topic for next week, Claire?
I don't know. Let's see. Something good.
Yes.
Something we haven't done in a minute.
Yes. Oh.
Ooh.
True crime. We don't get that very often, so that's very exciting. Yay, true crime.
I feel like we always try to bring true crime into it, but...
Yeah, but nothing that's just like, hey, just pick a true crime thing.
Just true crime.
Like, it's okay. All right. That's great. Be sure to join us next week when we talk true crime. Yay.
Yay.
Until then, you can find us in all the things and at all the places at
Brunch and Judge.
Please follow, like, comment, subscribe, and you can send us some more topics for our wheel or any stories you'd like for us to cover to us at
brunchandjudge@gmail.com.
So until next time, keep on brunching
and keep on judging.
Bye.
Bye.